15 सेकंड में था सर. Okay.
Good afternoon and happy new year to all the APA members. After Diwali, this is our first live webinar CME. The topic of today's CME is the management of diabetes mellitus and insulinization simplified. With me on Zoom Live, two eminent speakers from Maninagar, Dr. Vipul Chawda and Dr. Dhruvi Hasnani. As a moderator with us, our past president, Dr. Sanjay Shah, and today's CME sponsor from Jerun Pharma, a journal manager, Mr. Hemant Bhatt, is also with us. Before starting the CME, one message to all our APM members that as a number of COVID cases are increasing day by day in our society, and many of our members and their family members are also affected by COVID infection. So be cautious to maintain social distance, wear masks and hand sanitization, and do safe practice. We pray to God for well-being of all suffering members and their families. So this is the message to you all. Please take care of yourself, your family and society. Now I request Dr. Sanjay Shah to give brief introduction of our today's CME speaker and request him to start the CME lecture.
Good
Dr.
afternoon.
Sanjay.
Good afternoon and Happy New Year to all the delegates of today's CME. Today's CME's topic is insulin in the treatment of diabetes. As we all know, we family physicians are treating diabetes, mainly type 2 cases, and in that case, we find that many a times OHA fails and we have to start the insulin. So there are lots of hurdles in starting insulin, even in titration and maintaining also. So we are lucky to have Dr. Vipul Bhai and Dr. Dhruvi Ben with us. And today they will guide us how to start insulin, titrate and maintain. First, our speaker is Dr. Vipul Bhai. It is my privilege to introduce him. Dr. Vipul Chawda is diabetologist and cardiometabolic physician. After MD, he did his PG diploma in diabetes from Europe and from RSSDI. He is chairman and founder of Rudraksh Institute of Medical Science. He is district coordinator, Ahmedabad chapter of RSSDI. He is national and regional faculty in education of healthcare professionals, principal investigator for numerous trials, and he is author to national index publication and chapters. So with this introduction, now I invite Dr. Vipul Bhai.
Thank you so much, Sanjay sir, for your kind words. In this COVID time, it is very difficult for not only doctors, we all healthcare professionals to maintain our day-to-day schedule and treating our patient. I would also like to thank Dr. Dhirendra sir to provide us opportunity to deliver a talk on insulin-like topic to all the family physician. And again, we are thankful to our sponsor, Zarun Pharmaceutical. With this, I would like to start sharing my screen and then let us discuss about initiation of insulin therapy in type 2 diabetes. I hope my slides are visible.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So treating a diabetes is a conglomeration of science, commerce and arts. It's not only science, it's not only commerce and it's not only arts. We have to deal every aspect of the diabetes management, and insulin is integral part of diabetic management. In some patients, we need to start the therapy with insulin, and in some patients, for more than 1 or 2 decades, we do not require insulin at all. So how we should select the patient who require insulin, and how we should start insulin, and how we should titrate insulin, that we will try to talk today. In India, we already have the pandemic of diabetes, and over this pandemic of diabetes, we are having pandemic of corona. Again, in corona or COVID-19, more than 50% of the death are attributed to the metabolic syndromes like diabetes and obesity. So we tackling these two pandemic, we need to be more vigilant, more concerned, and more careful. So today's our learning objective would be to understand the need for insulin initiation in our routine clinical practice, to know the key facts about insulin initiation, titration, and intensification in the management of type 2 diabetes, and to understand how to transit from one regimen to another regimen. So why insulin type 2 diabetes mellitus is necessary? This is very important that diabetes, when actually diagnosed, we have lost the half battle. Like insulin resistance starts very long in type 2 diabetes, around 5 to 10 years. And when patient has a overt hyperglycemia, we have lost approximately 50 cells of beta, 50% of the beta cells. Again, these cells are not died, but they are exhausted or stunned beta cell. If we manage this hyperglycemia in initial part of the diabetes in first 2 to 3 years in good condition, we can save this beta cell. So if we are not managing well, the exhausted beta cell will die, and within 5 to 10 years of diagnosis, we lost more than 90% of the beta cell. So it is very important to have a good glycemic control from very beginning of the diabetes. There is a progressive decline of the beta cell function with glycemic deterioration. This slide shows how we are treating our diabetic patient, that from the year 0, when we have diagnosed the patient, we can see from 100% to 50% of the beta cell have already exhausted. And what we do, we first start lifestyle modification with metformin. Again, we lost some glucose control. Then we start with a combination therapy of oral hypoglycemic agent. Again, we have a good control, and with some loss and some control, we spend 5 to 10 years with OHA. And then when we start our insulin, it is actually very late in terms of beta cell preservation. So early insulin initiation helps overcome beta cell exhaustion. The beta cell exhaustion develops along a continuum of a hyperglycemic spectrum of type 2 diabetes. Early insulin initiation can help preserve beta cell mass as well as function, while also improving insulin sensitivity. Earlier initiation of insulin therapy may be effective in providing long-term efficacy against prevention of complication or type 2 diabetes patient. Again, this is a current treatment strategy of type 2 diabetes. What we all usually do is at the start of the diagnosis of type 2 diabetic patient, the A1C is around 9 to 10. We start with a multiple OHA like metformin, sulfonylurea combination, or metformin with voglibose, or some DPP4, and in the present scenario with some SGLT2. Within a short period of time, we have a good glycemic control. But again, we are always reactive to loss of control of HbA1c rather than we have to be proactive. Because diabetes is a progressive disease, we have to be vigilant, see the glycemic control, and add hypoglycemic agent or insulin at a regular period of time. Now let's discuss this insulin initiation thing with some routine clinical scenario. I am very sure that this kind of patient we usually see in our OPD of a 48-year-old male patient, Mr. Ramesh, a known case of diabetes more than decade, and presented with complication of polyuria and fatigue for last 1 month. Patient do not has hypertension or any other heart disease, and patient is having a metformin 500 milligram BD with glimepiride 2 milligram BD. This is a normal case that we usually see in our clinical practice. Seeing our clinical examination, patient's BMI is very good, 23, weight of 60, BP is normal, pulse is normal. Again, it's very regular, and systemic examination is within normal limit. When we investigate this patient, we find that fasting blood glucose is 210, postprandial blood glucose is 290, HbA1c is 9, blood urea nitrogen is 12, and serum creatinine is 1.2. He was started with injection liraglutide, that is GLP-1 receptor agonist, but somehow he wasn't tolerant to it. Other investigation like echocardiogram was absolutely normal. Urine microalbuminuria was negative, and fundus examination is also normal. So this is a routine type 2 diabetic patient without any comorbidity with a 2 OHA on a maximum dose, but lost the control of blood glucose with A1C of more than 9. What will be the next therapeutic option? In this patient, shall we start insulin or we should add a third OAD? So we can have a poll. Let's have answer in your mind, and then we will discuss subsequently that in your opinion, which of the option would indicate oral anti-diabetic drug inadequacy or failure. Option 1 is a more than 2 OAD used in a maximum dose. Number 2 is a constant HbA1c more than 7. Third, a duration of diabetes more than 5 years, or the all of above. So this is a criteria for initiating insulin therapy. Mind you, in India, the data and the survey says we lost more than 7 years from loss of diabetic control to start insulin. Second thing, when we have a 2 oral hypoglycemic agent in a full dose and then we start a third OAD, however potent the third OAD would be, the glycemic control would not be in a term of HbA1c, not more than 1 A1C reduction we can achieve with the add of third OAD, and not more than 0.5 HbA1c reduction we can achieve with the add-on of fourth OAD. So if the A1C is more than 9, patient on 2 OAD, adding 1 OAD or 2 OAD will not reduce A1C more than 1.5. So in the end, you cannot reduce A1C below 7. If you want A1C reduction from 9 to level below 7 or 6, you must add basal insulin. See, what are the indication of adding insulin in type 2 diabetic patient? They are requirement of high dose of glucocorticoid. In current scenario, this is very important. When in COVID, we are using immunomodulator drugs, we are using a steroid in very high dose. We must know that this patient require insulin for a better control of diabetes. In hospitalized patient with acute myocardial infarction or other comorbidation, it is a thumb rule in diabetes that when patient is admitted with any complication or any disease in diabetes, we must give insulin. Is in perioperative or ICU setting. Again, in a perioperative period and ICU setting, insulin is always indicated. When patient is intolerant to oral anti-hyperglycemic agent, we have to use insulin. As inadequate glycemic control with other therapy, it is an indication of diabetes. In pregnancy, though metformin is used, but in current our practice, we see that patient has a high requirement of insulin, and most of the patients do not control their hyperglycemia with metformin. So we need to add insulin. And any symptomatic type 2 diabetic patient, A1C over 9, we must remember that good glycemic control cannot be achieved without adding insulin. Again, this is a ACE 2020 guideline that for adding and intensifying insulin, from the slide we can see that when the A1C is less than 8, we should start insulin from 0.1 to 0.0 unit per kg, and when A1C is more than 8, we should start with 0.2 to 0.3 unit per kg. Then we have to up titrate or down titrate the therapy that we will discuss in subsequent slide, or Dr. Dhruvi is going to teach us how we can up titrate or down titrate the therapy. Again, this ADA standard of care 2020, it also says patient on GLP-1 RA, we have to add a basal insulin to have a good glycemic control. Consider insulin as a first injectable therapy when you have A1C more than 11 and sugar more than 300. When there is a evidence of insulinopenia in term of either ongoing catabolism or weight loss and other symptom of hyperglycemia like osmotic symptom. Initiation with basal insulin is indicated in most convenient. It is a most convenient initial insulin regimen and can be added to metformin or with any other oral hypoglycemic agent. There are many ways how we can start basal insulin that we will discuss in subsequent slide. But it is very clear in Mr. Ramesh Bhai of our this patient that patient A1C is more than 9, more than 12 years duration, 2 oral agent in a full dose. when we need to reduce A1C more than 2, there is a clear-cut indication of adding insulin. So significance of insulin in type 2 diabetes mellitus. What is today's scenario? Today we are having a pandemic over pandemic, COVID-19 on diabetic. So diabetes in 42.3% of 26 fatalities due to COVID-19 in Wuhan, China data. A report of more than 72,000 cases of COVID-19, increased mortality in patients with type 2 diabetes and coexisting disease of heart, kidney, advanced age and frailty are likely to have a further increase in the severity of COVID-19 disease. Hyperglycemia management in sick patient, what precaution we should use? Most of our patients are on metformin, but we should take care that metformin can lead to rise in lactic acid and lactic acidosis. In acute condition, in any acute condition, SGLT2 should be withdrawn because they can cause volume contraction, they can increase fat metabolism and leads to euglycemic ketosis. GLP-1 can cause nausea and vomiting, so we should not use in any sick individual. And again, in case of pioglitazone, we have a concern of volume overload. So in all hyperglycemic acute condition, when patient is sick, the insulin remains the drug of choice. So now it is clear that our patient, Mr. Ramesh Bhai, is requiring insulin. So now our second poll question, that in your opinion, which insulin should be initiated in this patient? Whether we should start with basal insulin or premix insulin or a co-formulation of insulin or only a parenteral insulin. Again, you all keep your answer in your mind, and with subsequent discussion of the slides, it is very clear that we require which insulin. So what are the types of insulin that let's learn first. There are mainly 4 categories in which we divide insulin. First is the rapid acting insulin that starts their action within 5 to 15 minutes. They peak their action in 1 hour and they left the body within 4 hours. Second is a regular or short acting insulin which start working in 2 to 3 hours. Their effect gets plateau at 3 to 6 hours. And after 4 to 12 hours, they lost their efficacy. Intermediate insulin again start within 2 to 4 hours, but their effect lasts for around 12 hours. And long-acting insulin, they do not have their peak effect, but their effect lasts for more than 24 hours. And rapid-acting insulin, we have insulin glulicin, Lispro, and Aspart. Regular insulin is human insulin regular. Intermediate as a NPH, and long-acting insulin we have a Glargine, Detimer, Degludec, and also we now have a Glargine U300. So let's compare all the insulins with each other. Now first, that is basal insulin versus premix insulin for initiating insulin therapy. I would prefer a basal insulin. Let me be very clear that in my practice, we rarely use premix insulin unless until a patient is already on premix insulin or patient is stubborn to use a premix insulin because of some reason, like they are getting their insulin free of cost from some government setup. We do not promote premix insulin. Rather than we will use a basal insulin, which is very simple, and most important thing is there is a very less chance of hypoglycemia. Why we are not using premix insulin? Because there is a lack of peak plasma concentration and a peak glucose concentration with premix. And again, the titration with premix is somewhat difficult, and we do not achieve a complete controlled glycemic status with premix. We have to be a bit liberal with premix. So basal insulin is a better choice. With initiation of insulin, I would suggest that we all should start with a basal regimen, and then when we lose a control with basal insulin, then we have an option of either basal plus or basal bolus or premixed insulin that we will discuss in subsequent slide. Now there are 7 vital T for basal insulin use in type 2 diabetes. First is a treatment initiation. I again say that when we have a patient whose duration of diabetes is more than 5 years, patient with more than 2 OAD in full dose, and when A1C is more than 9, Adding a third or fourth OAD will not reduce A1C to less than 7. So we should consider such patient for initiation of insulin treatment. Our choice should be a basal only regimen because it is very convenient, very easy to start and very easy to up titrate. Leads to long-term reduction is complication and improvement in the outcome. So first T is a treatment initiation. Second T is a timing of administration. So patient आपने पूछे कि साहब insulin क्यारे लेवु? So basal insulin has no peak effect. Its effects start for 24 hours. Effects remain. So we can give at any fixed time of the day. Basal insulin should be injected at an appropriate time, whichever convenient for a patient. Morning 8 a.m., night 8 p.m., morning 8:10 a.m. to night 8:10 p.m. Anytime patient can take the insulin. Long-acting insulin can be administered at any time of the day, irrespective of the FPG level. And long-acting insulin, the basal insulin, is a choice for a patient who want to fast, like in a Shravan or in Ramadan or in Chaturmas. So timing of administration is very clear and very simple. At any fixed time of the day, patient can take insulin. Third is a technique of administration. This is a very important part of starting insulin and where most of the physicians make a mistake. Prescribing medicine is a day-to-day practice for many of us. Everybody has taken some or other medicine in their lifetime, but taking first insulin is very difficult for everything. So what we do in our practice, that we give first sort of dose by patient's own hand in our OPD. That will, one, give a confidence to the patient. Second thing, there is some complex thought in patient's mind that how they will roll the number, how they will uncap the needle, how they will push the needle, and how they will push the plunger. There is a simple thing, but in thought process it seems very difficult. If patient is taking first shot by his or her own hand in your OPD, they will be very confident in two things. First thing, that the technique is very easy and they can do it. And second thing, that is most important, that it is a painless procedure. Hearing a word injection brings a thought of pain in the mind, but when patient takes first injection in doctor's presence and he or she feels that it is a painless, then the rest of work is very easy. So technique of administration, basal insulin should be stored, transported and injected using a correct technique, ensuring that injections are delivered into healthy subcutaneous tissue. So 30, a technique is also explained. 40 is a transportation and storage. પેશન્ટોને ઘણી વાર હોય છે કે ક્યાંક બહાર જઈશું તો શું થશે, ક્યાંક ફરવા જઈશું કે બીજા કોઈ પણ કારણથી બહાર જઈશું, how they will manage the transportation and storage. Again, we have to explain the things in the first visit itself, that transporting and keeping insulin is not a rocket science. Open and in-use insulin vial, cartridge or pen may be kept at a room temperature for 28 days. If the outside temperature is more than 40, then they need to store at a cool place. Otherwise, less than 30-degree temperature, they can be stored at a room temperature. And maintain necessary temperature during transportation. They can use both simple વસ્તુમાં કે કાપડમાં વીંટાડી અને પાણીની બોટલમાં નાખી દેતી લઈ અને they can use storage with ice in their bucket. The fifth T is a tablet. What should be done with the tablets when we start with the insulin? The combination therapy with OAD and basal insulin may be complementary mechanism for each other. So we should not reduce other medicines. The secretagogue we may need to down titrate in subsequent day, but at the beginning of basal insulin, it is very clear we need not to change any of the oral combination medicines. So the sixth T is a target for titration. Again, from the very beginning of the management of type 2 diabetes in our practice, we are always treat to target have approach. We give our patient the target of their weight, their abdominal girth, their blood pressure, their HbA1c, their fasting and their ppbs. So as when we add a basal insulin, we give a target of fasting blood sugar to our patient, that with a patient who is a who is a newly detected, we give a target of less than 100, and a patient with type 2 diabetes with a multiple comorbidity, we may be as liberal as a fasting around 120 to 130. So we treat to target approach with a fasting sugar every 2 to 3 days. We up titrate or down titrate the insulin. And the 7C is tool for monitoring and troubleshooting. That monitoring is the key for success in diabetes. Whatever treatment you give, if you don't monitor, you will lose the battle. Same as when we start insulin, we have to do SMBG at least once a day. And according to SMBG reading, we should up titrate or down titrate the insulin. Now, initiating with basal insulin is the preferred choice of treatment. They are global recommendation, whether we see IDF 2017, ADA 2019, or ACE or ACE 2018. They all recommend start of basal insulin when the patient is more than 2 OAD, patient has A1C more than 9, and there is a osmotic syndrome. We should start with basal insulin. This is a slide for transition from premix to basal insulin. Again, we do not recommend in our practice premix insulin, but when the patient is on premix insulin and we should convert this patient on to basal insulin, we should count the total daily dose, and then total daily dose should be divided by 2/3, and that dose should be incorporated in a single basal dose. And with the reading of SMBG, we should up titrate or down titrate it. Strict FPG control with glargine effectively controls PPG exertion. Data from study of origin trial. In this origin trial, it was very clear that controlling fasting sugar, when there are gap with fasting and PP is not more than 100, when we down control the fasting sugar, the PPG is also coming down. When the fasting is 250 and PPG is 325, when we bring this fasting to 100 or 120, the 325 PPG is automatically coming to less than 180 or 170. So adding this basal insulin is not only controlling fasting sugar, but it also helps in controlling postprandial blood sugar exertion as well. So what is this is our case study summary of today's talk, that insulin initiation with basal was considered for glycemic control in the patient who is uncontrolled with 2 OADs. Our primary goal is to start insulin and titrate in a way that we can achieve A1C less than 7, and all the global recommendations anonymously suggest that basal insulin is a preferred and most convenient choice for initiation of the insulin in a patient with uncontrolled diabetes with 2 OAD. So to summarize my today's talk, that basal insulin is the most effective option for insulin initiation in majority of patients, and basal only regimen is the most convenient insulin for initiation of the regimen. The selection of appropriate insulin regimen and initiation time, as well as the optimization of insulin therapy, is very crucial to achieve optimum glycemic control. And basal insulin combination with oral therapy offers complementary mechanism of action that can help maximize efficacy, reach A1C target, and minimize adverse drug events. With this, I would like to thank you all for silent listening. I will stop sharing my slide, and again I will say Dr. Sanjay sir to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vipul Bhai. You have narrated the insulin initiation very well. Now our second speaker is Dr. Dhruvi Hasnani, and she is going to talk on the titration of insulin. Dr. Dhruvi Hasnani, she is MD physician, and then she did PG diploma in diabetes from RSSDI. She is consultant diabetologist at RIMS, that is Rudraksh Institute of Medical Science, HOD of Clinical Research at RIMS, Treasurer of RSSDI Gujarat Chapter, winner of Torrent Young Scholar Award for Diabetes, and she has 6 international publications, 17 national publications, and she is involved in 3 clinical trials. So I am sure that you will listen Dr. Dhruvi and you will appreciate her knowledge. Welcome, Dr. Dhruvi.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjay sir. It is indeed a pleasure to be on a platform with the Ahmedabad Family Physicians Association. And we as a team of Institute of Rudraksh, Institute of Medical Sciences, we feel that it is our prerogative first as healthcare professionals to be talking about a good quality of life for our patients, with diabetes. That is our very, very first prerogative. The second thing that we need to take care when we are talking about management of diabetes is that our patients should achieve a good glycemic status above all. That's our first thing. Now, it depends on the healthcare professional who's treating the patient, and it is his or her call that how do you achieve that glycemic control. The very first thing being lifestyle modification is of course important. Then we know that we have metformin, and then we know that we have an add-on to metformin through various different kinds of oral anti-diabetic drugs that are present. We have a company over here, Zoster, which is a leading pharmaceutical company for all the anti-diabetic drugs. Today, we are here to talk about addition of insulin to that therapeutical management for a patient to achieve a target A1C. In 2016 and 2015, there was this concept of having to talk about a glycemic penta. Now, let me just elaborate a little bit about a glycemic penta because that's very important for us as, first as healthcare professionals treating or managing type 2 diabetes, to be knowing that we not just have to control the fasting PPBS, we also have to control the HbA1c. We also have to take care of the glycemic variability, as in there shouldn't be many more fluctuations with the patient's blood sugar levels. And we also need to take care that the patient leads a happy and a healthy life. Now, we've seen this example of Mr. Ramesh, who has come to our OPD. He did not have his A1C under control, and his A1C was almost 9%, fasting out of target, PPBS out of target. People started him with a basal insulin. There were various amount of poll questions in the presentation asking you, when do you want to initiate the basal insulin? What kind of insulin do you want to initiate? We know that premix is very, very widely used in our country. Asians being a very carbohydrate rich, dietary habit. And he started saying that his choice of initiating insulin was a basal insulin. Now, whether does our patient Ramesh Bhai achieve his target A1C or not, let us see. Is initiating basal insulin enough? How do we optimally utilize our basal insulin for a proper target achievement for our patient? Now, let us look at the clinical scenario once again. This was a 48-year-old patient. He has a history of type 2 diabetes since 12 years, which means that his duration of diabetes is far more extensive to have already caused some kind of microvascular complication in this patient. BMI is not overweight. He's 23 with a BMI of 23, which means the person is almost as much as you and I. And this still shows that we have a higher fat percentage in comparison to our muscular percentage. Even with a 60 kg of weight, this person is still susceptible to all the complications that come along with an uncontrolled type 2 diabetes status. Now, is it enough that we just initiate an insulin of, say, glargine unit 100 in Ramesh Bhai? What do we say? I think we'll take it up in the discussion point when Sanjay sir, takes up most of the poll questions, and he'll ask us a little bit of questions at that point of time. Now, what do you think? Sir has already initiated the patient with 10 units, 18 units, 30 units, or 12 units. This patient is 60 kgs. What should be our optimal dose of initiation? Generally, it is a rule that we start with a basal unit of 10 units. But is that enough, or how should we start? So the guidelines suggest, the guidelines in 2018, the RSSDI guidelines by Sarita ma'am, Dr. Sarita Bajaj, she was the president of RSSDI at that point of time, and she talked about how should the insulin dosage be determined. The guidelines said for body weight of 60 kgs, you should know that your insulin initiation should go or start from 0.2 unit per kg. So for a 60 kg body weight, it comes to 12 units. For somebody who is 80 and 100, the unit should be 16 and 20. But this is all for A1C below 8%. For A1C above 8 and uncontrolled, we know that we have to initiate by 0.3 units, or else it is not the optimal dose and it is not going to benefit the patient to the fullest. Now, this is our starting dose. What else? You call the patients for regular follow-up. Now, as we know in our daily practice, does the patient come back again in a month or two? No, the patient is a very, very non-compliant patient. After initiating insulin, we know we call the patient, say within just 20 days to 30 days. We again ask them to check their fasting blood glucose at every third day. But our patient came to us for follow-up only after 6 months. He was on 18 units at the first visit. Again, at the second visit after 6 months, he was still on 18 units. His A1C did come down. It came down from 9% to 8%. Fasting also did come down. The patient is happy. Tame maru sugar control ma kari api. Basoni niche to avi gayo na. His fasting is 168. But we, as somebody who is really passionate about getting a target A1C, getting a target fasting and a target PPVS within well below the guideline limits, are we satisfied with this? No, we should not be satisfied with this. We should know that our fasting targets for this 48-year-old male patients should be below 110. A postprandial target should be well below 160. Now, if this is not happening, how do you fix the fasting glucose? Now we know that although a basal insulin is initiated, we need to titrate the dose properly. If you are not increasing the dose, this patient will of course be unsatisfied. Maro sugar to control mashe. Why are you not, reducing my insulin? Instead, you are increasing my insulin. That's what the patient is going to say. Here we have to sit and counsel our patient that in spite of initiating the insulin, you will not adhere into the follow-up which I asked you to do. You did not come back to me within 20-30 days. You did not send me back your sugar readings at every third day interval. And we could have up titrated or down titrated your insulin, maybe withdrawn your insulin in these 6 months. But now you have to understand that we have to up titrate to achieve a target A1C of less than 7. We have to achieve a fasting of less than 110. So that is why we are going to increase your insulin, basal insulin. Now, what do you think is our common challenge when we want to up titrate? Do you think as healthcare professionals, we do lack a support system of, say, an existing diabetes educator who can explain our patient about the importance of insulin up titration? Do you think there is a fear of hypos even in our minds when we want to up titrate insulin doses? Do you think there are complexities in the existing titration algorithms, or is there some other fear that we might lose the patient when we are up titrating this? Of course, this patient has come to us only after 6 months. Do you think that patient will come back to us again in 20 days? It is a lot of rationalization in our OPDs when we want to up titrate the therapy. So there is a lack of basal insulin titration, and the significance comes out when there are various country-wide surveys that tell us that an HbA1c of less than 7 is still not achieved. Our average A1C of the whole country is still between 8.4 and 8.9. Average optimization is required, and 80 to 85% patients using insulin are not within their target. Then what is the use of initiating insulin? We have to achieve the target fasting as well as a target A1C to give the fullest benefit to the patients living with diabetes. Now, is there a titration inertia? There is a term coined by Dr. Kamlesh Kunti sir. He's from UK, from Leicester University. He coined the term known as therapeutic inertia. That in our day-to-day lives as healthcare professionals, not just treating diabetes, not just type 2 diabetes, for all the other non-communicable diseases, we are reluctant to not up titrate, but also down titrate therapy sometimes. We just, write the prescription saying continue the same prescription from the previous time and call back the patient again within 20-30 days. As is with all the Indian systems, patients do not come back for regular follow-up of their sugars or for their hypertension or for their dyslipidemia or for that matter, any of the non-communicable diseases. Now, this titration inertia can be from the patient's perspective, could be from the physician's perspective also. The patient might think that is this insulin doing more harm than good? I am sure all of us have heard this. Insulin apni kidney ne kharab kare chhe. Does insulin spoil my kidneys or damage my kidneys? You have to sit and explain to the patient that until and all you are on insulin, you are safe, you are protected. This is what is keeping your organs away from the damage of micro and macrovascular complications. The patient might think that it is very difficult for him to integrate insulin into his daily life. I have to travel and I come back home very late. When is the time for me to take insulin? It's a very common question. And again, there is a role of diabetes educator, which is very, very important. This year's World Diabetes Month theme is the importance of diabetic nurses in our practice. And all of us are so much reliant and dependent on our nurses for that it is only the nurse which can have the confidence of the patient in saying that insulin to levuch per se. If she says, half the battle is won. So it is very important for the nurses and us as diabetologists and as healthcare professionals to be on the same page. We have to teach the patients to have and understand a proper titration algorithm. Generally, we write down for the patient that if your sugars are between, say, 100 and 150, we do make some kind of a sliding scale for the patient and ask them to increase or decrease their insulin depending on what kind of an RBS or a fasting sugar they achieve. And the patient feels that if you are increasing the dose of insulin for them, their diabetes is worsening. In fact, you have to tell them that it is the other way around. You are improving, you are progressing, and you are on the side of reversing your diabetes when we are increasing your insulin dosage, because we want you to achieve your grade A1C target. And we've seen from the previous slides by Dr. Vipul Chawda sir that the better the earlier the achievement of tighter glycemic control, the better are the next 10 years. That is known as a legacy effect, which was again a term coined during the DCCT and the UK PDS trial, which both are a 10-year-long prospective studies for type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. We know that individuals with diabetes, they generally perceive that insulin therapy is an indication of failure. They feel, oh shit, diabetes. Is my diabetes so bad that you had to initiate insulin for me? That is where, again, we need to sit and communicate with the patient and bring insulin as a very, very normal entity, just like other medications are, into our communicative skills when we are talking to our patient, that insulin is a very normal thing. We can initiate it and we can always withdraw it back once your targets are achieved. Now, it is a need of the hour to be talking on insulin with a well-established low risk of hypoglycemia. One major important thing with our Indian practice is that we do not document hypoglycemia. In fact, the major trouble comes when we ask our patients to buy a glucometer at home, and it is very, very seldom that they buy glucometers and document their sugars. And even if they document, it is good for the first couple of days and then they drop it. This is true for even pregnant patients, true for even type 1 patients, and true for even type 2. Type 2 are the worst kind of monitoring patients who never monitor their sugars at home. It is a very simple and easy algorithm, titration algorithm to follow if they check their SMBGs properly. Now, with the advent of latest continuous glucose monitoring systems, you know that you have an Abbott Freestyle Libre, which is the latest viral trend in the field of monitoring and type 2 diabetes. And for that matter, any kind of diabetes, you can use the Freestyle Libre and the patients can themselves check their sugars and up titrate and down titrate their insulin dosages. Now, we've talked about initiating Glargine. Vipul sir has started Glargine U100 on this patient, and he started with 18 units. The patient coming back to us, what do you think is the risk for hypoglycemia? Let us go through this study. This study is known as the INITIATE study. Now, this was done in 2005, and then later in 2016, there were two studies which were talking about hypoglycemic risk of premix insulin versus Glargine. The first graph over here is comparing premix insulin and Glargine, wherein you can see that there is, of course, a statistically important reduction in risk of hypoglycemia with patients who were on insulin glargine, which means they had lesser risk of hypoglycemia versus somebody who was on premix insulin. Now, let us compare the latest co-formulation. There is an IDEC aspart, which again is a very good molecule. We are not going to make any preference over here, but again, a very good molecule for initiating insulin. Now, let us compare the IDEC aspart and the glargine for the risk of hypoglycemia. Both the graphs here, the light pink one showing IDEC aspart, the purple one showing iGlar, which is the glargine. Again, glargine had lesser risk for hypoglycemia because it does not have a bolus component. The lesser the bolus component or zero the bolus component, the lesser is the risk for hypoglycemia, which most of us would agree with. Now, what would be a safe and easy titration algorithm to go with the insulin glargine for our patient Ramesh bhai? There is always a 1 unit, 2 unit, 2 to 4 unit titration kind of an algorithm, and there is a 3 unit dose titration algorithm. We generally go with a 2 unit adaptation titration algorithm. We ask the patient to check their fasting sugars at every 3rd day interval, and we ask them to down titrate or up titrate their therapy out of their target range. For different patients, their fasting targets are different. Now for Ramesh bhai, our target would be somewhere between 80 and 110. So the moment his fasting sugars start to drop below 80, we ask him to reduce his insulin by 2 units. The moment it jumps above 110, but is still below 150, we ask him to check an early morning 3 to 4 a.m. sugars to see whether he's having any sort of midnight hypoglycemic episode or not. If it is above 150, we comfortably ask him to up titrate his insulin dose by 2 units. If it is about 200, we generally ask them to contact our clinic through WhatsApp, through phone, or through the application that we give to our patients. This slide is saying exactly what I am talking to you about, the 2 unit up titration, down titration rule. Over here, the slide is showing a target range of 180 to 130. We are keeping for Ramesh bhai, since he's 48 years old, our targets are more stringent, our targets are more intensive, and we need to achieve a better glycemic and a better fasting target sugars in comparison to somebody else. Now, this slide is summarizing the 7 T's what Dr. Vipul sir talked about. Can a physician-guided patient-led self-titration work? Again, a study was done by Dr. Bernard in 2018, and he presented it in the Lancet, that when physician and the patient are constantly in touch and the physician teaches the patient to self-titrate his insulin, does it work? But before you teach the algorithm to the patient, you have to consider how self-motivated is your patient. Is the algorithm you're teaching, is it simple? Is it safe? And is it effective? Or is it individualized? You have to keep in mind that this patient needs to be reinforced with the information that you're giving at regular intervals. You need to provide and explain the patient with hypothetical kind of a situation at the time in the clinic when you're teaching this patient the algorithm. If the patient is unable to calculate the dose, you have to simplify the algorithm for the patient again. Now, we do this in our practice. I hope Sanjay sir agrees with us, Dhiren sir agrees with us, Vipul sir agrees with us in doing this. And what would be the result? When Dr. Bernard did it, what was the result? Simple titration algorithms, do they work? Yes, it worked. There are various different kinds of algorithms which were given to the patient to achieve an endpoint A1C of less than 7 without hypoglycemic event, and the 2 unit increasing and the third day fasting target achievement, which was studied through the INITIATE study. It showed the best efficacy in achieving an endpoint A1C of less than 7 with no hypoglycemic events. That's the algorithm which we talked about in the previous 2 slides. Now, getting back to Ramesh bhai now, he comes back to us after 12 months. So again, we know that this patient was a very non-adherent patient. He up titrated the basal dose to 26, but he achieved an A1C of 7.2. That is the beauty of insulin. Even if the patient is non-adherent, you know that the patient is going to achieve a good glycemic target or a good glycemic status at the end of the day. Fasting 110, bang on, 2 hours PPG 128. So at a 6 months visit, patient was advised a fixed regimen and instructed to increase the daily dose by 2 to 3 units like we learned in the previous 2 slides. After 6 months, on the 4th visit, following titration, we increase the glargine to 26. Now is the time where we have to teach the patient to down titrate. We have achieved a good A1C, a good fasting. Now comes the role of down titrating the therapy in the equal fervor, in the equal enthusiasm, like we taught him to up titrate. So to summarize everything, we know that early initiation and optimization of any insulin for our patient will result in both a good fasting, a good postprandial, and a good reduction in A1C. We know that when we are initiating an insulin like glargine, it is having a reduced risk of hypoglycemic events. There is evidence of a trial known as treat to target trial, and it shows that optimal dose titration of insulin glargine targeting a fasting of less than 100 will result in a greater reduction of A1C, of course, very logical, with reduced number of hypoglycemic events. This is something else. Now we've up titrated the basal insulin, but what if you do not still achieve our target fasting? What to do then? There is most of the time a question as to comparing initiation of premix insulin. Would that be much better? Like previously discussed with Dr. Vipul sir, we do not prefer premix insulin because it is not as physiological as a basal bolus therapy. There is no harm in initiating premix if your patient is motivated and does an SMBG and a glycemic monitoring on a regular basis. But if not, then basal and a prandial insulin should be our option. An individual, if he's not meeting the glycemic targets on basal insulin, then what should we do? If A1C is still not at goal after basal insulin is increased to 0.5 units per kg per day, then think of adding a prandial insulin. It could be of any choice. You just heard Dr. Chavda talking about Epidra, Glulysin, Fias, the ultra rapid acting insulin. You have the Humalog Lispro. You have what else? The Aspart. All of these are very, very good options for prandial insulin, and you can initiate them when a basal dosage of 0.5 unit per kg per day does not give you the desired results. If there is an elevated A1C despite normal fasting, which means the postprandial sugars are still not under control, PPG is persistently out of goal, please consider initiating a prandial insulin. Further increase of the basal insulin might result in hypoglycemia. A dose of more than 0.5 unit per kg per day, please think of adding a prandial insulin to the therapy of our patients. Now, what is the concept of us as an institute? We know that type 2 diabetes is a progressive disease, and subsequently there will be a need for initiation of insulin and intensification of insulin to achieve a good glycemic control if the patient is not adherent to the lifestyle modification. Intensification is required to reduce the PPG excursion. Basal only regimens are sometimes very unlikely to provide a good postprandial hyperglycemic control. For control of the PPG, you know that you have to add a prandial insulin. And an important factor that contributes to complications, cardiovascular mortality is a fasting glycemic status. And that is where the role of a basal bolus therapy comes into account. The ADA 2020 talks about addition of a rapid acting insulin after non-achievement of an A1C and a non-achievement of PPDS. It also talks about adding a GLP-1 analog if you're not able to achieve a good A1C and PPG after giving the full dose of basal insulin, or you can change to a premix insulin twice daily, dividing it between breakfast and supper, which most of the doctors do at the very initial phases. Now, the only drawback of initiating insulin twice daily is that the longer acting component of any kind of premix, whether it is 25-75, 30-70, or 50-50, or the latest analogs also, we know that analogs cause lesser amount of hypoglycemia, but even then premix insulin have a larger chance of resulting into hypoglycemic episode because of the convergence of the longer acting component which is there in the premix insulin. So how do we put this into practice? From concept to practice, when we're talking about this, we're educating healthcare professionals, but how do we put it into practice? In spite of so many programs conducted by the AFPA over here, there are lots of healthcare professionals who do not discuss about titration of insulin at the initiation visit with the patient. So it is important that you make a very clarified discussion with your patient. Many may be unaware that you need to up titrate your insulin after starting it. So please sit with your patient, spend like 2 to 3 minutes and talk about up titration of the therapy. And you have to teach them that what should be the targets, what should be the glycemic goals, and when should the self titration be done. So I think all of us will agree, like the survey agreed, that most healthcare professionals and patient agreed that if they have a supporting tool, if they have a supporting algorithm, which talks about initiation and up titration, it will increase their confidence in the therapy written by the doctors and the healthcare professionals. So let us spend a couple of minutes with our patient and educate them on to how to up titrate and how to down titrate their therapy. You have to consider a patient's ability and willingness and motivation to self-titrate. Again, like we talked, make the algorithms very, very simple, reinforce it at regular intervals, create an example, create a hypothetical scenario, and if the patient is unable to calculate the dose, further simplify the algorithm to make it very, very simple. Global guidelines across the world are suggesting that basal insulin should be the initial insulin, but you can go for premix, you can go for co-formulations, but your patient should be motivated and should be good enough in monitoring. Basal insulin is going to allow us to personalize the dose based on A1C levels and weight. There is a patient-specific dose titration, which is critical to achieve a fasting target level, and the flexibility and ease of dose titration for glargine U300, U100, like Dr. Chawda said, is very, very additional to benefit of reducing the risk of hypoglycemia versus premix and co-formulation, which is very important for achieving a good quality of life. With that, I would like to stop sharing, but I was supposed to share one more slide talking about our pharmaceutical company, which is supporting us today. Thank you, Zoster, and thank you to Zarin Pharmaceuticals. Give me just 1 second before I can share that slide. Well, thank you for being a good part of the association. Thank you to Sanjay Shah sir and Dhiren sir for involving our institute to be a part of insulin initiation and up titration, which is very, very much important. And thank you to Zoster once again. So with that, I think we go to question and answers and over to Sanjay sir, and I'm going to tilt my table a little.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dhruvi ma'am. You both have mentioned the insulin very well, and I think we learned so many things, particularly your 7 T's. If we remember, that will be very much helpful to us whenever we start insulin. So I think looking to whole today's subject, I personally think that whenever we start insulin, we have to give enough time for each and every patient. I think you are doing practice of diabetes and you are sparing that much time, but we family physician never spare that much time. And sometimes what happened, suppose before 1 or 2 months, it was my experience, I have talked to my patient that you have to start insulin, and I have started telling about the insulin, how to start, how to titrate, everything. And at last patient said, sir, is it necessary to start? Is there any other option? Like that. So we spend a lot of time to start the insulin, but patient refuse later on, and sometimes patient go to another doctor also. So it is very difficult to start the insulin in our patient. So can you give me some trick? First of all, how to convince the patient to start insulin? Then we spare time to start and titrate.
Positivity is the only answer. Most of the time, what happens, we use the insulin as a threat. કે પહેલેથી જો આવું નહીં કરું તો તારો ઇન્સ્યુલિન સ્ટાર્ટ થઈ જશે, તારી કિડની બગડશે, ઇન્સ્યુલિન લેવું પડશે, બીમાર પડીશ, ઇન્સ્યુલિન લેવું પડશે. Rather than we should nurture our patient from very beginning that diabetes is a progressive disease and there is a need of insulin at a different level of diabetes management. and insulin is an anabolic hormone that will prevent the complication. એટલે એ રીતે એમના બ્રેઇનમાં જો આપણે પોઝિટિવ ફીડ કરેલું હશે ત્યારે પેશન્ટ સામેથી ઇન્સ્યુલિન માટે પણ તૈયાર થશે. આપણે એને થ્રેટ તરીકે નાના છોકરાને જેમ બીવડાવતો એ રીતે આપણે આમ બાવો આવીને લઈ જશે એમ ઇન્સ્યુલિન ચાલુ કરી દઈશ એવું કહીએ છે. એના કરતા પોઝિટિવલી કે ઇન્સ્યુલિન ઇઝ અ પોઝિટિવ હોર્મોન એન્ડ ધેટ વિલ હેલ્પ ટુ રિડ્યુસ ધ કોમ્પ્લિકેશન એઝ વેલ એઝ હેલ્પ ટુ બેટર કંટ્રોલ ઓફ ડાયાબિટીસ. એના મિથ વિશે જેમ તમે કહો છો કે વેન યુ આર હેવિંગ અ મોર ડાયાબિટીક પેશન્ટ in your OPD આપણે કોમ્પ્લિકેશન ના બેનર લગાવીએ કે ડાયાબિટીસ ના 5 કે 7 કોમ્પ્લિકેશન છે, એના બદલે આપણે ઇન્સ્યુલિન ના 5 ફાયદા છે એવા પોઝિટિવ જો હોર્ડિંગ્સ અથવા બેનર્સ આપણી પ્રેક્ટિસમાં આપણા ક્લિનિકમાં હશે તો that will help to overcome the taboos attached with the insulin. Madam, તમારો.
Sir, we've heard that Dhiren sir, Sanjay sir, and there is Jaswant sir. They are one of the most fearless healthcare professionals when it comes to initiating insulin. And most of the insulin company people, they come and tell us कि आ लोग कुछ समझाई सके अगर समझाई सके तो, and that's why we understand that कि तुम्हें समझाई सकते, and the patients trust you sir more rather than somebody else telling them about insulin. It is their trust in you that makes them take the therapy unquestioningly. The patient might ask कि बीजू कोई option है कि नहीं, but sir I believe that if you say कि ना थोड़ा time ले for type 2 diabetes, it is withdrawable once the glycemic status is achieved. C-peptide being a very important marker for insulin and beta cell reserve, knowing that if you can show an evidence to the patient and tell them, okay, bhai, this is how it goes, and keeping in mind your glycemic targets, hame dheere dheere burn kari daisu. So I guess, sir, except you guys, nobody can have that trust building in the patients so much so as anybody else.
Some patients feel guilty કે અરે મારે હવે ઇન્સ્યુલિન ચાલુ કરવાનું આવ્યું, like that they feel. But આપણે એમને જો એનું ઇમ્પોર્ટન્સ બતાવે ને કે ઇન્સ્યુલિન is must, it is necessary. Nowadays, even starting any other drugs, there are no benefits of starting any other drugs. And if you start insulin, પછી એને એનાબોલિક ઇફેક્ટ્સ વિશે સમજાવીએ, એના બીજા બેનિફિટ વિશે સમજાવીએ તો પછી એ તૈયાર થઈ જતા હોય છે. પણ પહેલા આપણને પહેલી 3-4 મિનિટમાં ખ્યાલ આવી જવો જોઈએ કે પેશન્ટની અંદર ઈચ્છા ઇન્સ્યુલિન ચાલુ કરવાની છે કે નહીં. અધરવાઇઝ આપણે 10-15 મિનિટ બગાડીએ, છેક ટાઇટ્રેશન સુધી આવી જઈએ અને પછી કે પેશન્ટ કે ના સાહેબ મારે હું વિચારું ઇન્સ્યુલિન ચાલુ કરું કે નહીં. એટલે એવું ના થવું જોઈએ. અને તમે કીધું એમ કે ફર્સ્ટ ડોઝ છે ને પેશન્ટને આપણે ત્યાં જ અપાઈ દેવડાવવાનો, જેથી કરીને શું છે કે એ ઇન્સ્યુલિન પરચેસ પણ કરી લીધું હોય એટલે પછી ઇન્સ્યુલિન ચાલુ રહે. અને એને ટાઇટ્રેશન માટે આપણે વ્યવસ્થિત સમજાવી દઈએ ને તો એ આપણને એના રિપોર્ટ્સ વોટ્સએપ કરે અને એને આપણે ચાર્ટ આપ્યો હોય કે આ પ્રમાણે પ્લસ માઇનસ ડોઝ કરવાનો છે તો પછી એ પેશન્ટ તૈયાર પણ રહે. અને હવે ઘણી બધી એપ્લિકેશન પણ આવી ગઈ છે કે જેમાં પેશન્ટ એના ડેટા નાખે છે, આપણે એને જોઈ શકીએ છીએ અને પછી આપણે એને ઇન્સ્ટ્રક્ટ પણ કરી શકીએ છીએ. ધીરેનભાઈ, આપણે કોઈ ક્વેશ્ચન આવ્યા હોય તો
one question from Dr. Viral Khamar. Why liraglutide was chosen first for the patient Ramesh Bhai instead of basal insulin first?
See, now GLP-1 analogs are considered as a first monotherapy for any young patient who we know is a type 2 diabetic since a very long period of time. If you see the latest algorithm, EASD, which is a European Society for Diabetes study Mantenu, ACE or the American Diabetes Association, what they tell us is, whenever a type 2 diabetic patient comes to you, calculate the ASCVD risk score. If your ASCVD risk score comes to be on the higher side, if the patient has a moderate or a severe risk for ASCVD, your first choice of agent to add on or even a monotherapy should be GLP-1 RA or SGLT2. So for a 48-year-old patient coming to our OPD with a type 2 diabetes duration of 12 years, this patient is a high-risk patient for CVD, cardiovascular diseases, and ASCVD. So here, the choice of liraglutide is shown to be beneficial for micro as well as macrovascular diseases rather than just achievement of glycemic status. So that is why liraglutide is our first choice. And it is, now even used FDA approved for obesity and patients who are non-diabetic.
One question from Dr. Himanshu Oja. Is HbA1c is related to age? With increasing age, it increases HbA1c.
Targets are synonymous with everything from even type 1 to type 2 diabetes. A1C targets are same.
Okay.
So there is no age disparity with A1C.
We are
Yes,
just
yes.
a little less stringent with the elderly and very small pediatric patient, less than 12 years of age and above 65 years of age. For everybody between 12 years to 65, our target A1Cs are less than 7 without the risk of hypoglycemic episodes.
Sanjay bhai, you have any question?
After starting basal insulin, we want to control postprandial, and for that we give bolus dose. Now, most of the time we see 2 hours after lunch, that is PPBS. But many a times, if we give one bolus dose, that is not sufficient. So, to control the pre-dinner and post-dinner, what will be your advice?
We generally ask our patients to check post breakfast also and post dinner also and 4 p.m. sugars also. So if for somebody the A1C is not in control, if the fasting is less than 100, but yet his A1Cs are 8.5 and 9, we ask them to take a 7-point SMBG. Fasting post breakfast, pre-lunch, post-lunch, 4 p.m. and pre-dinner, post-dinner, or we put him on a continuous glucose monitoring. And sir, one prandial dose is not sufficient ever. So we either add bolus twice or thrice depending
Twice.
on his hyperglycemia, either in the breakfast and dinner or lunch and dinner, seeing which are the 2 major meals. And if he has 3 major meals, he or she, then we add it 3 times. કારણ કે બોલસ નું ઇફેક્ટ તો જાતું રહેશે 4 to 6 hours માં.
એટલે જે લોકોને બેઝલ પ્લસ 3 બોલસ ડોઝિસ છે એ લોકોને આપણે પ્રીમિક્સની ચોઈસ આપી શકીએ ને?
આપી શકીએ, ડેફિનેટલી આપી શકીએ સર. પ્રીમિક્સ ઇઝ નોટ બેડ. એવું નથી કહેતા કે અપાય જ નહીં.
એનાલોગ્સ
પ્રીમિક્સમાં તમે હાઇડ્રેશન પેશન્ટને કહેશો ને તો પેશન્ટનું સિમ્પ્લિફાઈડ એલ્ગોરિધમ કોઈ છે નહીં. અને લાઈક આઈ વોઝ સેઇંગ કે એનું જે લોંગ એક્ટિંગ કોમ્પોનન્ટ છે ને એ ક્લેશ થશે. અગર આપણે બ્રેકફાસ્ટ અને ડિનરમાં આપીએ કે લંચ અને ડિનરમાં બી આપીએ તો બી લોંગર કમ્પોનન્ટ જે પ્રીમિક્સ ઇન્સ્યુલિનનું હોય, લોંગ એક્ટિંગ ઇન્સ્યુલિનનું કોમ્પોનન્ટ એ ઓવરલેપ થાય અને એક્ઝેક્ટલી અરાઉન્ડ 3-4 o'clock પેશન્ટ વિલ એક્સપિરિયન્સ અ લોટ ઓફ હાઇપોગ્લાયસેમિક સિમ્પટમ. એવું હાઇપો જાતું ના હોય પણ એ પેશન્ટને સિમ્પટમ્સ આવી જશે અને પેશન્ટ વિલ એઝ સચ કમિંગ આફ્ટર 6 months to us, he will stop insulin and that will be more detrimental than not taking insulin also.
ઘણા બધાને બેઝલ પ્લસ બોલસમાં બોલસ ડોઝ છે ને હાર્ડલી 4 યુનિટ્સ 6 યુનિટ્સ એની રિક્વાયરમેન્ટ હોય છે. એટલે ઘણા બધા લોકો શું કરે છે કે 4 યુનિટ્સ લીધું કે ના લીધું ચાલે એમ કરીને ઘણી વખતે એ લોકો છોડી દે છે. એટલે બોલસમાં ઘણી વખતે પ્રોબ્લેમ થાય. બેઝલ લેવાઈ જતો હોય પણ બોલસ જે 3 times લેવાવું જોઈએ, 2 times લેવાવું જોઈએ ને એમાં એમ કે હવે 4 યુનિટ છે ને રહેવા દો ને આપણે બહાર જવું છે ને તો આજે છોડી દો એમ. એટલે બોલસ દે મેની અ ટાઈમ્સ ફોરગેટ. એ એક કોમન ઇશ્યુ હોય છે બોલસ માટે.
That is why we reinforce on SMBG કે પોસ્ટ મીલ 3 ટાઈમ અને ફાસ્ટિંગ 1 ટાઈમ. જ્યારે બેઝલ બોલસ પર હોય ત્યારે આટલું તો કરવાનું જ. એટલે એ 4 યુનિટની ઇમ્પોર્ટન્સ છે. 2-3 વાર એનું પોસ્ટ મીલ સુગર કરે અને વેન ઈ સીઈંગ કે ભઈ ફાસ્ટિંગ તો સરસ આવે છે 100 ની આસપાસ પણ જે મીલ પહેલા 4 કે 6 યુનિટ નથી લીધા ને એ વખતે 250-300 સર્વ થાય છે, then he will realize the importance of that 4 or 6 unit.
Yes.
Shorter acting sulfonylurea are sometimes very big.
Also, we have experienced that AGI has a very important role. In India, when we are having a full of carbohydrate diet, more than 60% of our calories coming from carbohydrate full diet. In many patients, જ્યારે આપણે continuous glucose monitoring માં મૂક્યા હોય તો બેઝલ એડ કર્યા પછી સરસ ફ્લેટ ફાસ્ટિંગ થઈ ગયું હોય પણ પોસ્ટ મીલ 3 રાઈસ સરસ આવતા હોય બ્રેકફાસ્ટ લંચ ડિનરના and you add a glucose 25 or 50 or oglibos 0.2 0.3, then they become very flattened. So
Yes.
diet change, some short acting sulfonylurea or AGI can help when there is no need of much insulin, like 4 to 6 unit insulin can be replaced by such molecules.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
So can we conclude, Dhiren bhai?
Yes. Now I request General Manager Jurun Pharmaceutical, Mr. Hemant Bunt, to say few words.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Dr.
evening.
Sir. Wishing you happy Diwali, sir.
Thanks.
And this is the first session. Behalf of our Jarun Joster team and Axon team, we are very thankful to Dr. Dhruvi Astani Madam and Dr. Vipul Chavda, sir. Given a nice information regarding management of type 2 diabetic initiation and titration. And doctor given nicely all information of and all crux of national and international conference. So thank you very much for doctor. And without platform, we cannot share. So we are really thankful to Dr. Sanjay Shah sir and Dr. Dhirendra Sarnadi sir. So given a platform for AFPA to share this information to doctors, AFP members. Sir. So from Joster and Jarun team, we are very thankful, and we have brand like Joten, brand of our Tanilic Liptin, Joten Group, HMEG is our brand of Glimipride and Metformin, and Viltrac we have Vilda Gliptin, and lastly Pioran. So behalf of Jarun and Joster team, we are really thankful to AFPA doctors and speaker doctors to sharing this nice information. Sir. Thank you very much, sir. Over
Thank
to
you.
Doctor, sir.
Thank you, Aman Bhai, for arranging such a nice webinar and supporting us, our family association. And thank you to both speaker, Dr. Vipul Chavda sir and Dr. Dhruvi Hasnani, for presenting a very nice, informative, interesting lecture on diabetes management and insulinization. And thank you, our moderator, Dr. Sanjay Visa, helping us for the CME and spending with us our valuable time with us. And thank you, Juran Pharma, for arranging such a nice CME. And thank you all the viewers who watching our members who watching webinar live. And at last, take care, all of you, and JFA. Thank you.
And to take this opportunity to invite everybody for our national RSSBI, which is in this weekend.
Yes, sir.
We are all part of the RSSBI Gujarat chapter as treasurers and coordinators, but we have the national RSSBI this weekend. And we would like to invite all those interested to learn more about type 2 diabetes or all the types of diabetes to please attend this virtual largest event, which will take place on 26th, 27th, 28th, and 29th of November. And we can share the link in the description when we put it on Facebook.
Yes, parents. Definitely, please send us. We